Guys, have you ever noticed that some games from 6 years ago or even older are way better than a lot of the stuff being released today? The 15 games on this list are easily superior in almost every aspect when compared to many recent titles. So somehow, you really need to play each one of them, because they all made a huge impact when they were released. No filler and no sponsored list. Let's get into the video. Metro Exodus? If you want to see a game that humbles almost every post-apocalyptic shooter released in the last few years, you look at Metro Exodus. This is a 10 out of 10 technical powerhouse because of its atmospheric immersion engine. 4A Games didn't just build a world, they built a climate simulation. Technically, the standout here is the full day-night cycle and weather system that actually dictates AI behavior. If it's night, the mutants are more aggressive, and the human guards have reduced vision cones. This requires a level of dynamic lighting and shadow calculation that makes the world feel alive and reactive. But the real reason it's better than today's games? Tactile interaction. In most modern shooters, you press a button and a menu pops up. In Metro, you physically pull out a map, you manually pump your air rifle, and you wipe the mud off your gas mask. This requires a massive amount of first-person body presence animation, where the camera is physically attached to the character's rig. It's a technical choice that makes the game feel heavy and real. When you add the ray-traced global illumination, which was years ahead of its time, you get a game that looks and feels more sophisticated than almost anything coming out in 2026. It's not just a shooter, it's a technical masterclass in making the player feel there. The Last of Us Part 1. We have to talk about the gold standard for emotional and physical realism. Whether you're playing the original or the remake, The Last of Us remains a technical humbler because of its motion matching and AI buddy system. Technically, the relationship between Joel and Ellie is a feat of contextual animation. Ellie isn't just following you, she's constantly calculating her cover-to-cover pathing based on your movements, ensuring she never breaks the immersion. Modern games still struggle with companion AI getting stuck on walls, but Naughty Dog perfected this a decade ago. The material shaders are also 10 out of 10. Look at the way blood soaks into a shirt, or how skin reacts to light, using subsurface scattering to give characters a warmth that doesn't feel like plastic. It's better than today's games because it has a directorial focus. Every technical decision, from the way the sound echoes in a flooded basement to the impact physics of a lead pipe, is designed to serve the story. It doesn't bloat the experience with 200 hours of boring side quests. It is a tight, technically flawless journey that proves that linear can be much more powerful than open world when the polish is this high. Forza Horizon 3. Now, this might be a hot take, but Forza Horizon 3 is technically and aesthetically superior to a lot of the racing games we're seeing today. Why? Because of the skybox technology. Playground Games literally went to the Australian outback with a 12K HDR camera rig and recorded the actual sky for months. This wasn't just for a pretty background. That data was used to drive the global illumination and reflections of the entire game. The way the light from a real Australian sunset hits the pate of a Lamborghini Aventador is a technical flex that modern procedural skyboxes often fail to capture. The terrain deformability on the beaches and in the rainforests is also a 10 out of 10. The engine tracks the tread depth of your tires and calculates the friction based on the moisture levels of the sand or dirt. It's better than today's games because it has a vibrant technical soul. It's not just a car list, it's a festival. The optimization is so good that even in 2026, the game runs with a smoothness that makes modern stuttering PC ports look amateur. It's a reminder that when you combine high-end physics with a breathtaking real-world visual foundation, you create a racing experience that is truly timeless.
staters without an ounce of respect for the law. That's 7 government officials they've murdered this year.
Red Dead Redemption 2, what can we say about Red Dead Redemption 2 that hasn't been said? In 2026, this game is still the technical king. It humbles the entire industry because of its obsessive logic systems. We're talking about a game where the material interaction is so deep that snow accumulates on your coat, mud dries and flakes off based on the temperature, and the horses have a muscle and skeletal rig that is more complex than the main characters in most other games. This isn't just detail, it's a massive parallel computing feat where the engine is constantly tracking thousands of small variables. The NPC persistence and AI life cycles are a 10 out of 10. Every person in a town has a schedule, a home, and a job. If you follow a worker in St. Denis, they don't just disappear, they live their life. This requires a level of background data processing that most modern open-world games skip to save on CPU power. It's better than today's games because it refuses to take shortcuts. It is a slow, deliberate, and technically staggering achievement that makes every other open world feel like a video game, while Red Dead feels like a world. It is worth every penny because it is the peak of what human effort and technical ambition can achieve.
Crysis 3, in 2026, we're still asking the same question. Can it run Crysis? But specifically, Crysis 3 is a 10 out of 10 technical marvel that remains a benchmark for graphical density. Crytek used the CryEngine 3 to push a level of vertex detail and real-time vegetation physics that still humbles modern hardware. Technically, the game features a volumetric lighting system and tessellated water that reacts to every footstep and explosion. While modern games often use upscaling tricks to look good, Crysis 3 was built on raw, native geometry. The real flex here is the material accuracy. The nanosuit itself is a masterpiece of PBR, physically based rendering. You can see the carbon fiber weave and the way light refracts off the visor with a filmic quality that modern shooters often replace with flat textures. The 7 wonders of the Liberty Dome allowed the developers to showcase everything from dense, physics-heavy jungles to claustrophobic urban ruins. It's better than today's games because it represents a time when developers weren't afraid to build a hardware killer. It's a tight, 10-hour technical showcase that feels more premium in its polish than any open-world live service shooter on the market today. Batman Arkham City. If you want to see the perfect evolution of a franchise, you look at Batman Arkham City. This is a 10 out of 10 because it achieved a scale versus detail balance that modern open worlds have completely lost. Technically, Rocksteady used a heavily modified Unreal Engine 3 to create a seamless urban playground. The big achievement here was the navigation logic. Batman's grapnel boost and gliding mechanics were tuned with such animation fluidity that moving through the city feels like a rhythm game. Every gargoyle, every ledge, and every rooftop is a smart object that Batman interacts with perfectly. The Brawl AI is another technical masterclass. The engine handles up to 20-30 enemies simultaneously, each with their own attack priority and counter window logic. It's better than today's games because it has zero bloat. Every inch of Arkham City is packed with Riddler trophies that require actual environmental puzzles, not just go here and click X. The atmosphere, achieved through a gritty global illumination and a snow particle system that accumulates on Batman's cape, creates a mood that is physically palpable. It's a complete, masterful experience that proves that a medium-sized map with high density is always better than a massive map that feels empty. Super Mario Odyssey is easy to dismiss Nintendo as low-tech, but Super Mario Odyssey is a 10 out of 10 technical triumph in mechanical, polished gameplay. This game runs at a rock-solid 60 FPS on hardware that is essentially ancient by 2026 standards, and it does so through incredible optimization and asset management. The technical soul of Odyssey is the Cappy capture system. This isn't just a gimmick, it's a massive object-oriented programming feat. Every time you capture an enemy, Mario's entire physics rig and control mapping change instantly to fit that new character. Whether you're a T-Rex, a spark of electricity, or a Goomba, the input latency is practically non-existent. The game features a snapshot art style, where every kingdom has its own unique shader palette, from the photorealistic New Donk City to the painterly Luncheon Kingdom. It's better than today's games because it prioritizes the joy of control. It doesn't care about realism in the boring sense, it cares about the technical perfection of fun. Every jump and every hat toss is a 10 out of 10 interaction that makes you realize how clunky and heavy modern movement systems have become. Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, we have to go back to the game that changed cinematic engineering forever. Uncharted 2 is a 10 out of 10 because of its scripted physics integrity. Naughty Dog used their proprietary engine to create set pieces that weren't just cutscenes, they were playable events. The train level is a technical legend. The entire level is a moving physics body that is constantly curving and tilting, while the AI has to calculate its cover logic and pathfinding on a surface that is moving at 60 miles per hour. The animation blending in this game set a standard that most games in 2026 are still trying to reach. Drake doesn't just walk, he stumbles over rocks, brushes his hand against walls, and reacts to the force of impact from nearby explosions. It's better than today's games because it has perfect pacing. There's no filler, no crafting grinds, and no level gating. It is a 10-hour adrenaline shot that uses its technical power to create the most convincing Indiana Jones simulator ever made. Replaying it today reminds you that a perfect linear game is worth more than 1,000 empty open worlds. Portal 2. If you want to talk about a game that is technically flawless, you talk about Portal 2. This is a 10 out of 10 because of its physics-based spatial logic. Valve's Source engine was pushed to its absolute limit here to handle portal projection. This isn't just a visual trick. When you place a portal, the engine has to render a live viewport of another part of the map while simultaneously handling the momentum transfer of objects passing through. In 2026, we see games struggle with basic door physics, yet Portal 2 was flawlessly calculating conservation of momentum across nonlinear space over a decade ago. The fluid dynamics of the gels, the propulsion, repulsion, and conversion gels, are another technical masterclass. They aren't just floor textures, they are material overlays that fundamentally change the friction and velocity variables of the player's movement in real time. It's better than today's games because it has perfect consistency. The rules of the world never change. The puzzles are solved through pure logic rather than level gating. And the character writing for GLaDOS and Wheatley is delivered through dynamic audio triggering that reacts to your specific progress. It is a tight, polished, and intellectually stimulating masterpiece that feels more premium than almost any modern puzzle game. Sleeping Dogs. This is the game that humbled the giants. Sleeping Dogs is a 10 out of 10 because of its kinetic environmental integration. While other open-world games were focusing on bigger maps, United Front Games focused on combat density. Technically, the standout feature is the contextual environmental takedown system. The engine tracks hundreds of interactive points in the world: shutters, phone booths, meat hooks, fish tanks, and allows Wei Shen to interact with them through a seamless animation to physics transition. The atmospheric rendering of Hong Kong is also a technical legend. Even today, the way the neon lights reflect off the wet surface shaders during a tropical rainstorm creates a mood that is more convincing than most next-gen cities ray-traced. The hand-to-hand combat engine uses a counter-logic system that feels heavier and more tactile than GTA could ever dream of. It's better than today's games because it has a point of view. It's a love letter to Hong Kong action cinema that uses its technical polish to make you feel every punch, every kick, and every high-speed motorcycle jump. It is a masterpiece of feel and atmosphere that is worth every penny.
Mass Effect 2. We have to talk about the masterpiece of narrative engineering. Mass Effect 2 is a 10 out of 10 because it perfected the character-driven mission structure. Technically, the feat here is the logic gate complexity of the suicide mission. The engine has to track hundreds of variables: who you talked to, which ship upgrades you bought, which loyalty missions you completed, and which squad members you assigned to specific roles. The result is a branching narrative finale where the stakes feel physically real because the technical foundation actually supports your failure. The cinematic dialogue system was also pushed to its peak, using digital human performance techniques to ensure that Shepard's micro-expressions matched the tone of your Paragon or Renegade choices. It's better than today's games because it has zero filler. Every mission is a loyalty mission that builds your team. There are no fetch quests designed to pad out the play clock. It's a 30-hour space opera where every technical decision, from the biotics physics to the interplanetary map, is designed to make you feel like a commander. It is a perfect, legendary experience that modern RPGs are still trying to replicate.
Battlefield 1. To close this block, we have the most visceral shooter ever made. Battlefield 1 is a 10 out of 10 because of its sensory engineering. In 2026, many shooters feel clean and robotic, but Battlefield 1 used the Frostbite engine to create a grit simulation. Technically, the photogrammetry used to build the landscapes is so high fidelity that it looks like a 4K photograph. But the real star is the dynamic destruction and deformation. When a shell hits the mud, the engine creates a persistent crater that changes the cover and the pathing for the rest of the match. The soundscape tech is arguably the best in gaming history. Using high dynamic range audio, the game calculates how a gunshot should sound based on the distance, the weather, and whether you are in a trench, a building, or an open field. It creates an acoustic chaos that is terrifyingly immersive. It's better than today's games because it has a soul of scale. Seeing a massive behemoth airship crash and burn in real time with server-side physics synchronization that ensures every player sees the same destruction is a feat of networking and rendering that modern shooters often avoid to save on server costs. It is the ultimate war simulator that still humbles the industry. Dark Souls. When we talk about games that are better than everything today, we have to talk about the game that redefined the language of difficulty. Dark Souls is a 10 out of 10 masterclass in level design architecture. Technically, the standout feature is the vertical world connectivity. Lordran isn't just a map, it's a giant interconnected 3D skeletal mesh. The way you can look down from the undead berg and actually see the demon runes below, which are a fully rendered physical part of the world, is a feat of spatial asset streaming that modern open worlds rarely attempt because it's too difficult to optimize. The combat precision and hitbox logic is the other technical pillar. In Dark Souls, difficulty isn't artificial, it's based on frame data discipline. Every swing of a sword has a specific startup, active, and recovery frame count that the engine respects perfectly. If you get hit, it's because your hitbox collided with a hurtbox, never because of a random glitch. It's better than today's games because it has mechanical honesty. It doesn't use dynamic difficulty adjustment to secretly help you, it expects you to learn its systems. Replaying it in 2026 reminds you that vague and mysterious is often much more engaging than clear and constant quest markers. It is the ultimate technical proof that player respect is the best game mechanic. Splinter Cell Blacklist. We are still waiting for a stealth game that matches the tactical fluidity of Splinter Cell Blacklist. This is a 10 out of 10 because it perfected the animation blending for stealth action. Technically, the killing in motion system allowed Sam Fisher to transition from a sprint to a lethal takedown and back into a crouch without a single hitch in his movement physics. This required a level of frame interpolation that makes modern stealth feel clunky and slow. The light and shadow global illumination is a technical beauty. In Blacklist, shadows aren't just for atmosphere, they're a gameplay layer. The engine calculates Sam's concealment value based on the actual lumen count of the environment. If you shoot out a light, the AI perception logic updates instantly to reflect the new darkness. It's better than today's games because it offers triple threat freedom. You can play the entire game as a ghost, no kills, a panther, silent kills, or assault, full combat. The technical balance required to make all three playstyles viable in the same level design is a feat of logic pathing that most modern developers find too expensive to implement. It is the peak of the stealth genre, and it still schools everyone on how to make a player feel like a professional predator. Nier Automata. To finish our list, we have the most technically transgressive game ever made. Nier Automata is a 10 out of 10 because it uses its engine flexibility to break the fourth wall. Technically, this game is a genre shifter. The Platinum Games engine allows it to transition seamlessly from a 3D third-person action game to a 2D side-scroller to a top-down bullet hell shooter, sometimes all within the same 5-minute combat encounter. This requires a camera rig system that is incredibly robust, shifting the player's control axes on the fly without breaking the flow. But the real technical soul is the dynamic soundtrack and audio integration. The music in Nier is layered. As you move from a quiet area into a combat zone, the engine performs a real-time crossfade that adds percussion or vocals in perfect sync with the BPM. It's better than today's games because it uses the medium of video games to tell a story that only a game can tell. The ending E sequence, which involves the save data deletion mechanic, is a technical and emotional flex that turns the game's own files into a narrative tool. It is a haunting, philosophical, and technically daring masterpiece that proves that perfection comes from taking risks that no one else is brave enough to take. And there you have it. 15 perfect games that aren't just better than much of what we're seeing today, they are the standard that 2026 is still trying to live up to. But now comes the most important part. Which of these 15 legends is your number one? Which game on this list changed the way you look at gaming forever? Let's start a discussion in the comments. I want to see your perfect game lists too.